The Grand Chamber of Nexus Prime was the largest room ever built by any species in the galaxy. It could hold 10,000 beings at once. Today, it held representatives from 347 alien civilizations. They came in all shapes and sizes. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some floated in tanks of liquid because they could not breathe air. But they all shared one thing in common. They all hated humanity. Ambassador Doyon Lim stood alone in the center of the chamber. He was a small man with gray hair and tired eyes. He wore a simple black suit. No medals, no symbols of power. Just a man standing before the judgment of an entire galaxy. High Speaker Vorn towered above him on a floating platform. Vorn was 12 feet tall with blue skin and 6 eyes that glowed like small stars. He had led the Galactic Council for 200 years. In all that time, no species had ever challenged his authority. He looked down at the human ambassador, like a giant looking at an insect. Humanity, Vorn began, his voice echoing through the chamber. You have been found guilty of crimes against galactic peace. Doyon said nothing. He simply listened. You have expanded beyond your permitted boundaries. You have refused to share your military technology. You have built weapons that threaten the stability of our union. Vorn paused and let his words sink in. And most importantly, you have refused to accept your place in the natural order of things. A wave of agreement passed through the chamber. Thousands of alien voices made sounds of approval. They clicked and hissed and growled. The message was clear. Humanity was not welcome here. Doyon still said nothing. He had given many speeches in this chamber over the years. He had begged for fair treatment. He had asked for protection when human colonies were raided by slavers. He had requested trade agreements that other species received easily. Every time, the council had laughed at him. Every time they had said no. After 30 years as ambassador, he had learned that words meant nothing to these beings. Only power mattered. And today, the council believed they had all the power. The vote has been taken, Vorn announced. 347 species have voted. The result is unanimous. He let the word hang in the air. War. The chamber erupted in celebration. Aliens cheered and roared. Some species had waited centuries for this moment. Humanity had always been strange to them. Humans were too aggressive, too unpredictable, too dangerous. It was better to destroy them now, while they were still weak, before they became a real threat. Doyon watched the celebration with calm eyes. He did not look afraid. He did not look angry. If anything, he looked relieved. Like a man who had been holding his breath for a very long time and could finally let it go, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small communication device. He typed a simple message and sent it across the stars to Earth. The message contained only 2 words. It's time. Then he smiled. The aliens near him stopped celebrating. They noticed his smile and felt confused. This was not how prey was supposed to react. Prey was supposed to run. Prey was supposed to beg. But this human was smiling like he had just won something. You find this amusing? Vorn asked, his 6 eyes narrowing. No, High Speaker Doyon replied. His voice was soft but steady. I find it appropriate. Before Vorn could respond, Doyon turned and walked out of the chamber. No one stopped him. They were too surprised. In 300 years of council history, no condemned species had ever walked away with such dignity. 12,000 light-years away, on a planet called Earth. Admiral Una Park received the message. She was sitting in an underground command center, buried deep beneath a mountain. The room was filled with screens and officers, and the quiet hum of machines. This was the heart of human military power, a place that officially did not exist. Una was 67 years old. Her hair was white, pulled back in a tight bun. Her face was lined with age, but her eyes were sharp. They were the eyes of a predator. She had served in the military for 45 years. She had planned operations that no one would ever know about. She had built a war machine in secret, while the galaxy laughed at humanity's weakness. She read the message once. Then she set down her tablet and looked at the officers around her. They were young and old, men and women, all waiting for her command. They had trained their entire lives for this moment. Their parents had trained for this moment. For 3 generations, humanity had prepared in secret. Ma'am. Commander Taman Kwan stepped forward. He was her second in command, a tall man with a serious face. What are your orders? Yuna stood up slowly. She walked to the main screen, which showed a map of the galaxy. 347 red dots represented the species that had just declared war on humanity. They thought they were strong. They thought they were united. They thought humanity was weak and alone and afraid. They were wrong. Begin Operation Long Night, Yuna said. Her voice was calm, almost casual, like she was ordering tea instead of war. Wake up the fleet.
I love it.
Contact every hidden base and every sleeper cell. Tell them the waiting is over. The officers moved instantly, sending orders across human space. Hidden bases that had been silent for decades suddenly came to life. Ships that the galaxy did not know existed began powering up their engines. Soldiers who had trained in secret put on their armor. Temin watched Yuna carefully. He had known her for 20 years. He had never seen her smile. But now, there was something in her eyes. Something that looked almost like joy. You have been waiting for this, he said quietly. Yes, Yuna replied. She turned to face him, and for the first time, she allowed herself to feel the emotion she had buried for so long. For 63 years, I have watched them mock us, enslave us, treat us like animals. I have smiled at their insults and bowed to their demands. I have played the role of the weak and foolish human. She looked back at the map at all those red dots that thought they were hunters. Finally, she said, I can stop pretending. 50 years ago, humanity learned the truth about the galaxy. It was not a kind truth. The colony ship Hope's Dream carried 3,000 people to a new world. Families, children, farmers and teachers and doctors. They were peaceful people looking for a new home. They found death instead. The Remnari slavers came without warning. Their ships appeared in orbit and burned the colony's defenses in minutes. Then they landed and began taking people. Not to kill them. Something worse. The Remnari sold living beings across the galaxy. Human bodies were valuable. Human minds could be broken and trained for labor. Human children could be raised as pets for wealthy aliens. When Earth received the distress call, they sent their small fleet to help. But the fleet was old and slow. By the time they arrived, Hope's Dream was empty. 3,000 people were gone, scattered across 100 slave markets on 100 worlds. Earth went to the Galactic Council and demanded justice. Ambassador Doyen Lim, young and full of hope back then, stood before High Speaker Vorn and begged for help. He showed evidence. He named the slavers. He asked the council to punish the Remnari. Vorn looked down at him with all 6 of his glowing eyes and said something that Dion would never forget. Humans are too primitive to protect. Perhaps if your species survives another 1,000 years, you will be worth our attention. The council laughed. 347 species laughed at human suffering. They saw nothing wrong with slavery. They saw nothing wrong with letting the weak suffer. That was simply how the galaxy worked. Doyen returned to Earth with empty hands and a broken heart. But he also returned with a new understanding. The galaxy would never help humanity. The galaxy would never see humans as equals. The only way to survive was to become so powerful that no one could ever hurt them again. He met with the leaders of Earth and told them what he had learned. They listened in silence. Then they made a decision that would shape history. We will pretend to be weak, the leaders agreed. We will let them laugh at us. We will let them think we are nothing. And while they are not watching, we will build our strength in secret. They called it the long game. Admiral Yuna Park was just a young captain back then, but she understood the plan better than anyone. She had lost her younger brother on Hope's Dream. He was only 12 years old when the Remnari took him. She never found out what happened to him. She never found out if he was still alive somewhere, suffering in chains. That pain turned into purpose. Yuna dedicated her entire life to the long game. She rose through the ranks not because she wanted glory, but because she wanted revenge. Cold, patient, complete revenge. Under her guidance, humanity built two militaries. One was visible. It was small and outdated and made the galaxy laugh. Old ships. Old weapons. Soldiers who seemed poorly trained. This fake military was designed to make aliens feel safe. It worked perfectly. The real military was hidden. Deep beneath the surface of 100 worlds, humanity built secret bases. They carved shipyards into dead moons. They hid weapons factories inside asteroids. They trained soldiers in underground cities that no satellite could see. Dr. Jun Shin led the technology division. She was a genius who had lost her parents to a pirate raid when she was young. Like Yuna, she turned her pain into fuel. She studied every piece of alien technology humanity could find. Then she built something better. The quantum fold drives were her greatest achievement. While the galaxy used engines that took days to cross star systems, June built engines that could cross the galaxy in hours. She kept them secret. She installed them in ships that looked old on the outside but were monsters on the inside. She also built weapons. Plasma cannons that could cut through any shield. Missiles that could crack planets. Bombs that could make stars explode. She built enough weapons to burn the galaxy 10 times over, but the most important project was the soldiers themselves. General Wu Jinbeek was in charge of the ground forces. He was a hard man with scars on his face and ice in his voice. He believed that technology was not enough. Humans needed to become more than human. He worked with doctors and scientists to enhance human soldiers. They made bones stronger than steel. They made muscles faster and more powerful. They made eyes that could see in the dark and ears that could hear a heartbeat from 100 meters away. These soldiers could survive injuries that would kill any alien. They could fight for days without sleep. They could feel no fear. Wu Jin trained them in secret camps across human space. He taught them every form of combat. He taught them how to kill with their hands, with knives, with guns, with ships. He taught them that failure was not an option. You are humanity's sword, he told them. When I point you at the enemy, you will cut through them like paper. No mercy, no hesitation. No stopping until the job is done. They believed him. They trained until their bodies broke. Then they trained more. They became something new, something terrifying. For 50 years, humanity worked in secret. Every humiliation from the council made them angrier. Every insult made them more determined. Every laugh made them sharper. The colony worlds that the council thought were weak farming planets were actually in fortress systems. The trade ships that aliens ignored were actually spy vessels collecting intelligence. The human ambassadors who bowed and smiled were actually reporting enemy weaknesses back to Earth. And at the center of it all sat Admiral Yuna Park, watching and waiting. She kept track of every detail. She knew the patrol routes of every alien fleet. She knew the defense codes of every council world. She knew the names of the leaders who had laughed at humanity, and she had plans for each of them. Now the waiting was over. The council had finally given her what she wanted. They had declared war, thinking they were the hunters. They did not understand. They could not understand. In all their long history, they had never met a species like humanity. A species that could smile at its enemies for 50 years while sharpening a knife behind its back. The masks were coming off, and the galaxy was about to see what hid behind them. The Council's war fleet was the largest ever assembled in galactic history. 800 ships from 40 different species gathered at the border of human space. They came in all sizes. Small fighters that moved like angry insects, cruisers covered in weapons, massive carrier ships that could hold thousands of soldiers, and at the center of them all, the flagship of High Admiral Vathas, a Talori warlord who had conquered 30 systems in his long career. Vathas stood on the bridge of his ship and looked at the target on his screen. The human colony of New Busan, a farming world with 2 million people. An easy first victory. He would burn it quickly and then move on to Earth itself. All ships, he commanded, begin the attack. The fleet moved forward like a great wave of metal and fire. They expected no real resistance. Human ships were old and slow. Human weapons were weak. This would be a slaughter, not a battle. General Wujinbeek watched them come from the surface of New Bujan. He stood in a command bunker surrounded by his officers. Screens showed the enemy fleet growing closer every second. "Sir," one officer said nervously, "there are 800 ships. We only have 50 in orbit." Wujin smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of a wolf watching sheep walk into a trap. 50 that they can see, he replied. In orbit, the human defense fleet seemed to panic. Their old ships moved in confused patterns. They fired weapons that barely scratched the council's shields. Vathas laughed at the display. "Pathetic," he said. "Destroy them all." The council fleet opened fire. Human ships exploded one by one. In minutes, the orbital defense was gone. Vathas felt satisfied. This was too easy. Perhaps humanity would surrender after seeing such power. He ordered his ground forces to land. Thousands of alien soldiers poured out of transport ships. They were warriors from a dozen species. The Talori were tall and covered in hard scales. The Vethani had 4 arms and moved like spiders. The Remnari, the same species that had raided human colonies for slaves, came in huge numbers. They were excited to capture more humans for their markets. They landed outside the main city, expecting terrified farmers to run from their path. Instead, they found silence. Empty fields. Empty buildings. No people anywhere. Where are they hiding? A Remnar officer asked. The answer came from the shadows. Black armored figures rose from the ground like ghosts. They had been buried in hidden tunnels waiting for this moment. Human soldiers, enhanced beyond normal limits, merged all around the alien forces. The first shots were fired before the aliens could react. Human weapons did not flash like alien guns. They made a sharp crack that echoed across the fields. And where they hit, aliens died. The plasma rounds cut through alien armor like it was made of paper. The Talori scales so hard that most weapons bounced off. Shattered under human fire, the Remnari officer tried to raise his weapon. A human soldier appeared beside him, moving faster than any being should move. The soldier's hand grabbed the officer's arm and twisted. Bones broke like dry sticks. Before the officer could scream, a blade ended his life. All across the landing zone, the same scene repeated. Aliens who expected easy prey found themselves fighting demons. Human soldiers moved too fast to track. They took wounds that would kill any other species and kept fighting. They showed no fear, no hesitation, no mercy. Fall back. The Talori commander screamed. Fall back to the ships. But there was no falling back. In orbit, the destroyed human ships suddenly stopped playing dead. Their old hulls broke apart, revealing sleek warships underneath. The disguise had been perfect. And now Captain Hanacho led the real fleet into battle. The Eternal Soul was a monster of a ship. It was half the size of Vothas's flagship, but carried 10 times the firepower. Hannah sat in her command chair with cold eyes and steady hands. "Target their engines first," she ordered. "I do not want any of them running home to warn the others." The human ships moved with impossible speed. The quantum fold drives let them appear and disappear, striking from angles the aliens could not defend. Council ships exploded in chains of fire. Their shields, designed to stop old human weapons, meant nothing against the plasma storms that Hannah unleashed. Vathas watched his fleet die around him. In 30 minutes, he lost 300 ships. His sensors could not track the human vessels. His weapons could not hit them. His shields could not stop them. "This is impossible," he whispered. They were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to be primitive. Commander Temin Kwan coordinated the battle from Earth. He watched the enemy fleet crumble on his screens and felt no joy, only satisfaction. This was the result of 50 years of preparation. Every ship knew its role. Every captain knew the plan. The aliens were not fighting a battle. They were falling into a trap that had been built before most of them were born. By the end of the day, 600 council ships were destroyed or captured. The remaining 200 tried to run, but human ships chased them down. Not one escaped. On the ground, the alien soldiers fared no better. Wujin's enhanced warriors killed thousands and captured thousands more. The Remnari, those proud slavers who had stolen so many human lives, found themselves in chains for the first time. Admiral Unipark watched the victory reports come in. Around her, officers cheered and embraced. They had won the first battle. They had proven that humanity was not weak. But Una did not celebrate. She simply nodded and turned to her planning screens. New Busan was just the beginning. 347 species had declared war on humanity. She intended to visit each one of them. "Send a message to the council," she said calmly. "Tell them what happened here today. Tell them this is their only warning." She paused, letting her officers wait for the rest. "Tell them to surrender now, or we are coming for them all." The galaxy had never seen anything like it. In all of recorded history, no primitive species had ever attacked the council. It was simply not done. The council was the law. The council was order. The council was power itself, and now humans were tearing it apart. Admiral Unipark divided her fleet into 5 strike groups. Each group had 2,000 ships. Each group had a target. She did not wait for the council to regroup. She did not give them time to build new defenses. She attacked immediately, hitting multiple systems at once. The Talori hegemony fell first. They were a proud warrior species who had conquered many worlds. They believed their military was unmatched. Captain Hannah Cho proved them wrong in 6 days. Her fleet destroyed their defense stations, captured their capital world, and forced their government to surrender. The same species that had laughed at human ambassadors now knelt before human soldiers. The Vethany Collective did not even fight. When they saw what happened to the Talori, their leaders sent a message to Admiral Una. "We surrender," the Vethany High Council wrote. "Please do not destroy us." Una accepted their surrender. She did not punish them. She did not burn their worlds. She simply took control of their military and moved on to the next target. This confused the galaxy in council history. Conquered species were always punished. Cities were burned. Populations were enslaved. Resources were stolen. That was how war worked. The strong took from the weak. The winners destroyed the losers. But humans did something different. They conquered with precision. They targeted military installations and government buildings. They captured leaders and generals. But they left civilians alone. They did not bomb cities. They did not kill children. They did not take slaves. Dr. Jun Shin traveled with the fleet leading teams of scientists and doctors. When human ships captured a world, her teams followed. They studied alien technology, but they also shared human medicine. Diseases that had killed thousands on alien worlds were cured in days. Injuries that alien doctors could not fix were healed by human techniques. "Why are you helping us?" a Vethany doctor asked June. "We are your enemies." June looked at him with tired but kind eyes. "You were never our enemies. Your government was our enemy. Your soldiers were our enemies. But you are just a doctor trying to save lives. We have no war with people like you." This was Yuna's plan. She called it the open hand strategy. One hand held a sword. The other hand offered friendship. Species could choose which hand to face. Word spread across the galaxy. Humans were dangerous, yes. Humans were powerful, yes. But humans were also fair. They did not massacre civilians. They did not enjoy cruelty. They conquered because they had to, not because they wanted to. One by one, council members began to question their leaders. Why had they started this war? Why had they attacked a species that only wanted to be left alone? Why had they listened to High Speaker Vorn? Vorn watched his coalition crumble from Nexus Prime. Every day brought news of another defeat, another surrender, another species abandoning the council to seek peace with humanity. He was not afraid. He was furious. "These primitives think they have won," he told his advisors. "They think their little tricks have beaten us. They are wrong." He walked to a sealed chamber deep beneath the council headquarters. Inside was the greatest weapon ever created by any civilization, the Celestial Engine. It was ancient technology, built by a species that had died long ago. The Council had found it and kept it secret for thousands of years. The celestial engine could reach across space and touch the heart of any star. It could make that star unstable. It could make that star explode. Entire systems could be destroyed with a single command. If I cannot defeat humanity, Vorn said, I will erase them from existence. He activated the engine and pointed it at Earth's sun. Across human space, alarms began to sound. Scientists detected strange energy readings from their star. They ran calculations and felt their blood turn cold. The sun is destabilizing, they reported to Admiral Yuna. At this rate, it will explode in 4 hours. Earth will be destroyed. Everyone will die. The command center fell silent. Officers looked at each other with fear in their eyes. They had won every battle. They had conquered half the council. And now they were going to lose everything? Admiral Yuna stared at the reports. Her face showed no emotion. Her hands did not shake. She had prepared for this moment. She had hoped it would not come, but she had prepared. Contact Dr. June, she said calmly. Tell her to activate Project Sunrise. Her officers did not understand. They did not know about Project Sunrise. Almost no one did. It was the most secret project in human history. Even more secret than the Hidden Fleet. Even more secret than the Enhanced Soldiers, because Project Sunrise was humanity's answer to the Celestial Engine. Jun Shin had learned about the engine 20 years ago. A human spy had found ancient records in a forgotten council archive. June had studied those records. She had understood the technology, and then she had built something better, not just a defense. A mirror. Whatever the engine sent out, Project Sunrise could catch it and send it back. Every bit of destructive energy could be redirected to another target. A target of humanity's choosing. June received Yuna's order aboard her research ship. She had been waiting for this call for 2 decades. Project Sunrise is online, she reported. Ready to activate on your command, Admiral? Yuna nodded slowly. She thought about what she was about to do. She was about to aim a weapon at Nexus Prime, at the heart of Council civilization, at billions of lives. But she also thought about Hope's dream, about 3,000 humans stolen by slavers, about her brother, lost forever, about 50 years of humiliation and pain. Activate, she said. The galaxy was about to learn one final lesson about humanity. They did not just survive threats. They returned them with interest. High Speaker Vorn stood before the celestial engine and watched it work. Energy flowed from the ancient machine like blood from a wounded beast. Across the galaxy, that energy reached Earth's sun and began tearing it apart. In 4 hours, Vorn said with satisfaction, humanity will be nothing but ash and memory. His advisors cheered. They had been afraid when human fleets conquered world after world. They had been afraid when ancient empires fell in days. But now they felt safe again. The celestial engine was unstoppable. No species had ever survived its power. Then the alarms started. Red lights flashed across the command center. Scientists ran to their screens with panic in their eyes. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. High Speaker, a technician called out, his voice shaking. The energy is returning. What do you mean returning? I mean it is coming back. All of it. The engine's power is reflecting off Earth's sun and coming here. To Nexus Prime, to us. Vorn felt something he had not felt in 200 years. Fear on Earth. Dr. Jun Shin watched her screens with tears in her eyes. Project Sunrise was working. 20 years of secret research, 20 years of preparation. And now it was finally being used. The celestial engine had tried to destroy Earth's sun. But Jun's technology had caught that energy like a mirror catching light. It had turned it around and sent it racing back toward its source. The star at the center of Nexus Prime was now receiving the same treatment that Earth's sun had received. How long until their star becomes unstable? Admiral Yuna asked through the communication channel. June checked her calculations. 6 hours. Maybe less. Yuna nodded. She opened a channel to Nexus Prime. To High Speaker Vorn himself. High Speaker, she said, her voice calm and cold. This is Admiral Unipark of the Human Defense Fleet. I believe you have noticed what is happening to your son." Vorn appeared on her screen. His 6 eyes were wide with terror. His blue skin had turned pale. He looked like a creature facing death for the first time. "What have you done?" he demanded. "I returned your gift," Una replied simply. "You tried to kill 10 billion humans. I am now in a position to kill 50 billion beings on Nexus Prime and the surrounding systems. Your own weapon will destroy your own home." Vorn's mouth opened, but no sound came out. "You have a choice," Una continued. "Surrender now, unconditionally, and I will stop the process. Your son will be saved. Your people will live. Or you can refuse, and in 6 hours, everything you have ever known will burn." "You would not dare," Vorn whispered. "You would be killing billions of innocents." Una leaned forward, and her eyes held no warmth at all. "You dared. You tried to burn Earth without hesitation. You called us primitive. You called us animals. You were happy to commit genocide against my species." She paused. "Now, you know what it feels like." The communication channel went silent. Across Nexus Prime, billions of beings watched their sun begin to flicker. They saw strange patterns in the light. They felt the temperature rising. They understood that death was coming. Vorn looked at his advisors. They were the same beings who had cheered moments ago. Now they would not meet his eyes. What should I do? He asked them. No one answered. In the Grand Chamber, where he had declared war on humanity, Vorn knelt alone. He activated a communication channel to every species in the galaxy. Trillions of beings watched as the most powerful leader in galactic history lowered his head. "We surrender," he said. "Unconditionally." Admiral Una gave the order. Project Sunrise reversed its effect. The energy stopped flowing toward Nexus Prime's sun. Slowly, the star stabilized. 50 billion lives were saved by a single command. The war was over. In the weeks that followed, a new order was built. The Galactic Council was dissolved forever. In its place, a new assembly was formed. The Galactic Assembly gave every species an equal voice. But humanity held one special power. A permanent veto. Nothing could be done against human interests ever again. Ambassador. Doyan Lim stood in the same grand chamber where he had been condemned. But now, representatives from 347 species rose to their feet when he entered. They bowed their heads in respect. In fear, in understanding, "You do not want to rule the galaxy," Doyan told them. "We never wanted war. We only wanted to live in peace. You denied us that. You forced us to become what we became." He looked around the chamber at all the different faces. "But we are not like you. We will not enslave. We will not massacre. We will not treat lesser species as animals. We will build something new. Something fair. Something that you never had the wisdom to create." On Earth, Admiral Unipark watched the ceremony from her small apartment. She had been offered everything. Statues, titles, wealth, power. She had refused it all. Commander. Quan visited her that evening. He found her sitting by the window, watching the sunset over the mountains. She looked older now, tired but peaceful. "How did you do it?" he asked. "How did you stay patient for 60 years? How did you smile at creatures who treated us like insects?" Una was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. "They made a mistake. All of them. They looked at us and saw prey. They saw a weak species that could be bullied and ignored. They thought our kindness was weakness. They thought our patience was fear." She turned to face him, and in her eyes he saw the fire that had burned for 6 decades. They never understood the truth. Humans are not prey. We have never been prey. We are the predators who learn to wait. And when we finally stop waiting, she looked back at the stars, now burning in the darkening sky. "Nothing in the galaxy can save you from us." 50 years later, statues of Admiral Unipark stood on 1,000 worlds. Children across the galaxy learned the story of humanity. But the most important lesson was not about power or war. It was about patience. And it was about mercy. Humans could have destroyed the galaxy. They chose to build it instead. That choice made all the difference.